Bro, can someone tell me what shoes DeMar had on tonight?
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball. Today we're going to be looking back at Sunday's 8 games, previewing the week ahead, week 24, and then Monday's 4 games for daily fantasy. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. Before I do, though, a quick congratulations to anybody who either won their championships this week, or if you even came runner-up, that's a good effort, or made it into your championship week for this coming week ahead. And I'll continue to say this, your league should never, ever play into April. And even this year, I think March 31st is probably leaving it a little bit late to finish your leagues. So congratulations if you have one. Hopefully you will still stick listening to this podcast. We're going to have heaps of stuff happening over the off-season and obviously heading into the pre-season. Lots of content that will, I think, hold you in pretty good stead, even just if it's not for next season, but just entertainment, interesting stuff about the NBA and fantasy and players progression and all that sort of stuff. So now let's head to where we always start these shows.
Monstrous line of the night.
The monstrous line of the night goes to
LeBron James.
We haven't said that many times this year. LeBron was pretty strong for the Lakers in a, I guess, well-needed victory for them, just to help get some, sense of hope for the fan base. 35 minutes for LeBron, well above what we thought he'd be playing. 29, 11, and 11 with a triple-double. 3 triples, 2 steals, 1 block. Yeah, the shooting from the field wasn't great, 9 of 22, but from the line, an unexpected 8 of 9 from LeBron James. He has been disappointing this season, no doubt, and not only on an injury perspective. The 15th ranked player overall. He was a first-round lock in most cases. I had him at the back end of the first round, so not too much of a dip from that sort of level, but if you took him in the top 2 or top 3, you've obviously been burnt pretty hard. A large reason why he is down at that level is because of the free throw shooting, a career worst 67% from the line, pushing him into that punt territory. Everything else isn't really all that far off what he's done over the past, in his past seasons. It's really that free throw percentage. But even his field goal percentage is down this year, only at under 51%. And over the last 3 months of the year, since he returned from his groin injury, 49%. And one of the big things that used to maintain LeBron at the top of those rankings when he was a member of the Miami Heat was 56, 55% from the field. And that has obviously dropped off, unsurprisingly, as he has gotten older.
Waiver wire line of the night.
The waiver wire line of the night goes to Emmanuel Mudiay of the New York Knicks. 35 minutes for Mudiay. 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. He hit 2 triples, he had a steal, and he was 10 of 19 from the field. Great for a field goal percentage for Mudiay. Hit all 4 of his free throws, and with Dennis Smith Jr. likely out for a bit longer period of time, Mudiay is a worthy add. A top 70 player over the last 2 weeks in 32 minutes, which is a realistic expectation. 19, 3.5, and 4.5 on 48% shooting. And amazingly, he's only missed 1 free throw over those last 7 games. He's not doing much in the steals and blocks categories. The threes are still a little bit whack from Mudiay. But in terms of a guy, especially in a points league, he does really help. And short-term sort of stuff, he is interesting. But of course, the Knicks only have 2 games for this upcoming week. They don't play till Thursday. So can you justify holding on to someone like Mudiay for 3 days of no games when you're going to have significant stream opportunities on Monday and Wednesday and potentially Tuesday as well? The answer to that is almost definitely a no. Any sort of situation where he would play a normal amount of games, he'd be an ad. But with the way things look for the Knicks and the fact that their second game of the week is on a Saturday when there are 10 games on, you may not even be able to use Mudiay. It might be a 1-game week where he only plays on Thursday. So it's pretty tough to consider him a must-add player, even though the numbers, like today's numbers, would lead you into that territory. The deep leaguer of the night is Devontae Graham of the Charlotte Hornets. He's taking minutes, or taking all of Tony Parker's minutes, really, as James Borrego still sort of pushing for victories, and it's working for them as they had a crazy win today against the Raptors, but developing the young guys, and Graham looking really, really good at the moment, especially in today's game. 22 minutes, 10 points, 3 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals for Graham. That's 2 consecutive games of 20-plus minutes. Now, the last game was nowhere near as successful, 4-3-3, and shot 1 of 6 from the field. But as an assists stream type of guy, more for, say, 14 or 16 team leagues, he's rostered in 0% of Yahoo leagues at the moment, Devontae Graham. So you want to look at him in 18s and 20s, no doubt, and possibly in 16-teamers with this boost in his minutes and the ability for him to get assists, which is high at the moment, and he has taken on that Tony Parker role. His season-long assist numbers are a little bit skewed because he was playing a lot of shooting guard. You remember earlier this season when Jeremy Lamb was out, we had instances of him starting even over Malik Monk, who obviously had a really disappointing season. But we're seeing some pretty interesting numbers now that he's slid back into that point guard role with a really big assist game from Devontae Graham coming today. So deeper leagues, you pay attention to that. Don't look too much into the season-long assist numbers because, again, playing shooting guard alongside Kemba is a lot different to playing point guard behind Kemba, and that's the situation that Devontae currently finds himself in. Guys, make sure you are subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode, and the best way to do that is by downloading the new Himalaya app, so download that app and subscribe to this podcast. Let's go on to the next award of the day.
Young Gun of the Night.
And that is De'Aaron Fox of the Sacramento Kings. Fox was obviously an absolute disaster in terms of field goal percentage, but I go by the same formula I've used all season for these awards, and Fox was the highest first or second year player that came out. Only the 9 points, 6 rebounds and 4 assists, and a terrible 3 of 16 from the field. But those 4 assists, the 6 steals, and the 1 block, he could have lost people the matchup on field goal percentage. He could have won people the matchup with steals. He's not going to be this bad in terms of shooting. He has dropped off over the last 2 months outside the top 60 when he was pushing top 20, top 25 for portions of the season earlier this year. The shooting has dipped, which was always likely to happen. He was shooting at what seemed like an unsustainably high rate for the guy that he is, and we're seeing that drop off from him at the moment. It's always important to look at those when people have these early season stretches where the numbers, your field goal percentage is at an unsustainably high level of 2-point makes, long twos in particular, and Fox was at a level that seemed relatively high, and we're seeing that come back down with him at the moment, and it is having a real impact on his overall production from a fantasy point of view. Obviously, at the absolute worst time of the year in that regard, and that's causing a problem for him and his managers who do have him on the team. But it's been a successful season. No one can deny that, I don't think, about De'Aaron Fox, but there's going to be these games like this one that do have a real impact overall, negative and positively. I tell a man's not hot. The dud of the night is Serge Ibaka of the Toronto Raptors. Just 18 minutes for Serge in this one. I think it's safe to say that he's a drop candidate at this point. 10 points with only 1 rebound, no other stats at all. 4 of 6 from the field as Marcus Gasol continues to get the bulk of the minutes, but Gasol still only played 23 minutes in this one against the Hornets. So it's really tough to hold either of these guys, but more specifically Ibaka, who over the last 2 weeks since returning from his suspension is the 182nd ranked player over the last 3 months, and that's before the Gasol trade, 114th. You can do better in all 10, all 12 team leagues, and probably streaming him in 14 team leagues might make sense. The Raptors only have 3 games this week. They're against absolutely piss poor opponents, the Bulls, the Knicks, and the Bulls, but that could also mean blowouts. It could also mean lower minutes, rests perhaps, but then on the flip side, maybe it's Gasol that rests and Ibaka jumps up. But still, I don't think that we're looking at Ibaka as a must-hold guy in 10s and 12s, and probably in 14-team leagues. This addition of Mark is really having an impact on him, especially with that suspension, which is something we talked about, that could solidify Gasol as the starter for the rest of the season, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen for this Toronto team. The best net rating of the day went to Bojan Bogdanovic of the Indiana Pacers, a plus 105.5. He was stellar for the Pacers. They got a big victory over the Denver Nuggets, while the worst net rating went to Brandon Knight of the Cleveland Cavaliers, negative 87.2. He does have deeper league appeal at the moment, Knight. I don't think that Dellavedova is going to return this season. Knight's going to play those mid-20 minutes, but today it was far from his best performance. Let's look at some other injuries. Jason Tatum missed today's game for the Celtics, and it appears that he is likely to miss Tuesday's game as well. It was Gordon Hayward that moved into the starting lineup. He was okay. He wasn't spectacular, but you might be able to get some stream value out of him on Tuesday if you can fit him into your active roster. Tyler Johnson's going to miss again for Phoenix. I'd be pretty stunned at this point if he returns and plays significant minutes, so his spot in a 12-team league is streamable. Harry Giles missed today's game for the Kings. He's likely to be back next game. Darren Collison missed his third consecutive game for the Pacers. I don't know what the status is long term. I imagine he'll be back in the next game or two, and that's going to really blunt the value of Aaron Holiday for deeper leagues and Tyreek Evans, who prior to today had put in two 12-team league-worthy performances. Then to some injuries that did happen today. Landry Shamet and Kevin Knox IV. Both of those guys left with ankle sprains. The status of those guys moving forward remains to be seen. They are not 12-team league players, but they did have some short-term stream value. And Frankie Ntilikina also left with a sore groin. He'd missed about 6 weeks with a groin injury prior to this, so this is obviously a troubling situation for Ntilikina and his groin. 1.5 games in and it's already flared back up with soreness. You'd think they'd be extra careful, and maybe Ntilikina's played his last game in a Knicks uniform. Reggie Bullock also was a late scratch for the Lakers with a plantar fascia issue. You'd have to think that he is going to miss multiple games with that injury. We know that that's the injury that's keeping Malcolm Brogdon out for the rest of the regular season, almost definitely. So I would think that Bullock is in real trouble, elevating the value of someone like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, especially with the Lakers having a 4-game week coming up. Let's look at these games now in more detail from Sunday, see what we can get out of them. It's all about using these games and short-term value and streaming guys in at this point in the season. The first game we look at, the Clippers beat the Knicks on the road, 124-113. Montrezl Harrell, great, 24 and 4. Lou Williams, 29 with 7 assists and 5 triples. These guys holding it down. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, another huge minutes night. 38 minutes for Shai, only 10 points, but 8 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. 4 of 4 from the line. It was a poor shooting night, but this could have been a really, really strong performance. And I think Shai is someone we look at as having 12-team value now, whether that's as a stream guy, as a short-term guy, as a schedule-dependent guy. That's sort of up to how your roster looks, but he's absolutely in 12-team discussions. Same with Paddy Beverly, especially with Landry Shamet struggling with that ankle. 12 points with 4 threes, and the Rooster did it again, 26 and 8 for Danilo Gallinari. Ivica Zubac's 10 and 10. He's a real specialist, probably more 14 teams than anything. If Shamet does have to miss time, you'd imagine Wilson Chandler, Garrett Temple, they're the guys that step up, but none of those players are really even going to be 12-team or close to 12-team relevant. For the Knicks, David Fizdale remains the worst. He's putting himself in the basket with truly some of the worst coaches we've seen. Jay Triano, for example, a player who gives someone extra minutes because they're playing their former team. So that's why DeAndre Jordan played 34 minutes. Don't forget the fact that he's an impending free agent. Forget the fact that he had one of the worst net ratings on the team, and his backup, Mitchell Robinson, had one of the best for this game, and though he was playing well and wasn't in foul trouble. Forget the fact that earlier in the season, when Frank Ntilikina's mum flew in from France to watch him play, that Fizdale, out of nowhere, just decided to give him a DMP CD, despite the fact that he'd been playing, and then got him back into the rotation the next game. It seemed almost like he was punishing him for, I don't know what reason, but you can fill in your own gap there. So Jordan played 34 minutes, had 20 and 13 with 2 steals and 2 blocks, and there's no denying that's a good statistical performance. He wasn't good on the court, but it also leads me to think that he'll go back and play 18 minutes next game, and Mitchell Robinson will play 24 or 25. Unless he's in foul trouble. Again, Fizdale inventing reasons to be inconsistent. But we're talking about this team that doesn't play again until Thursday, so it's all up in the air. Now, as for Robinson, he had a pretty weird Richie Benno.
2 for 2.
2 points, 2 steals and 2 blocks, but holding on to him for these 3 gameless days, is it something you can do? It probably isn't in most spots. Lance Thomas, also, it's great when we can get 29 minutes of Lance Thomas. That makes a ton of sense. 12 points, 2 triples, and 2 assists, while Hazonia only played 26 minutes. I guess it's fair enough. With Knox getting hurt, you had to give some of those minutes to Thomas. Damo Dotson, he got the Knox treatment from a couple of days ago. 44 minutes for Damo, 18, 3, and 2, but the schedule just doesn't suit to holding on to him for this week. While John Jerker Jenkins played 12 minutes and had 2 points, he could be back in the rotation if Ntilikina and or Knox have to miss time, but it's not really impacting anybody. But shout out to you, Fizdale, for using the revenge game narrative to justify stunting or losing the opportunity to give someone like Robinson more playing time, even when he was playing well and wasn't in foul trouble. Not something that happens all the time. The Cleveland Cavaliers got smacked by the Bucks 127-105, but the positive news here is Larry Nance started. He played 30 minutes and had 13, 3 and 6 with 3 steals. I've been espousing the value of Larry Nance all season. I've been criticizing Larry Drew for his reluctance to play him, but now it appears the message has gotten through. So Larry Nance is a clear must-roster player in all leagues. He does have top 50 potential when he plays 30 minutes a night. Love was great, 20 and 19 despite the shooting with 4 triples, while the Padawan Colin Sexton didn't hit 20 points, but 18's pretty close. As usual, 1 assist, not many other numbers. The efficiency dropped off. It's what we talk about with him, is that if he doesn't have these 55% shooting nights, what else is he bringing? The answer is not very much, and he is more of a points league guy, but still having some 12-team stream value. Jordy Clarkson, he makes... Colin Sexton makes Jordan Clarkson look like Steve Nash out there. 19, 3 and 4 for Clarko. He's got some stream value for 12 team as well. Ante Zizic from starting to out of the rotation because Tristan Thompson's got to absorb all those backup center minutes. 10 and 6 for Tomo. He is more of that really deeper league guy. 18 team, 16 team league guy. Zizic's value is pretty disappearing. That's terrible English, but you know what I mean. Chetty Osman, 9 points in his 33 minutes. I think his spot is probably better off being streamed rather than holding him through every situation. For the Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo was back 26, 10 and 7 with 4 blocks. A great performance to have him back. Bledsoe bounced back from a stinker, 12, 5 and 7 with 2 steals. Lopez hit 4 threes. And George Hill with his best game as a member of the Bucks, 17 points in 21 minutes. Not much else there, only 1 assist. And it came on really hot shooting. So more of a deeper league guy. Tone Snell suffered an ankle sprain. He did return to action, but post-game Mike Budenholzer said it seems pretty significant. I wouldn't be stunned if we see Tone miss the next couple of weeks of action here, which opens things up for Paddy Connaughton, who had 9, 7, and 2 with 2 steals. That's nice 14-team league value. Sterling Brown played 17 minutes for 12 points. Deep league value appearing there. Ersan Ilyasova struggled a bit here, just the 2 points, while DJ Wilson only 3 points in his 16 minutes. So the absence of Brogdon and Mirotic, it's not really opening up anything for anybody in a 12-team format on the Milwaukee Bucks. Next up, we look at the Denver Nuggets and the Indiana Pacers. Nikola Jokic, 19, 11, and 8 with a steal and 4 blocks. Strong from him in only 30 minutes as they got blown out 124-88. Gaz Harris. He had 11 points, while Fart and Will Barton had 15 points in 24 minutes. It's hard to just consider these guys must-roster players. They are more stream guys. Barton, the line's okay, but on court, he didn't look great. I think you'd be better off streaming those spots if you do have them. Torrey Craig, the offensive stuff wasn't going to stick, and it didn't, but you're still providing some very deep league value, while the Blue Arrow and Paul Millsap both really terrible here. 2 of 8 for Millsap, 2 of 12 for Jamal Murray, who at least added 5 assists. I'd still hold those guys over Harris and Barton. Not the best night for the Nuggets, though. For the Pacers, Bogdanovic, 35 points, 5 triples, 6 rebounds, 3 assists on 81% shooting. He has taken such significant strides forward this season, has been really good. The efficiency, fantastic. And I think the absence of Victor Oladipo is helping him in terms of usage and free throw rate. We'll see how that changes next season. Maybe it does lead to him getting overdrafted, but he's been really good, assuming he comes back to Indiana, of course. Miles Turner, 17-11 with 2 blocks, good from him, while Thad Young only had the 8 points, but 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. Talked earlier about Tyreek, who'd been playing well, only had 11, 5, and 3 in his 20 minutes, while Corey Joseph had 3 assists and 4 steals. He's been a steals and assists streamer, Joseph, while Collison has been out, but overall, just a really large blowout win for the Pacers. Next up, the Charlotte Hornets beat the Raptors 115-114. Jeremy Lamb with the beyond half-court buzzer beater to win the game. He only played the 25 minutes here as the Hornets are really shaking things up. Batum was out. I don't think Cody Zeller is going to play again this season. Tone Parker was out. I don't really think he's going to play again this season. Miles Bridges, 16 and 6, a steal and a block, 2 triples. Big shooting, and he's been shooting at a high percentage really in these last 4 or 5 games, a huge level, and that's going to have an impact when it does drop off. But for now, he does have 12-team value, especially as a streamer, but the minutes, they are not going in for Miles Bridges for the rest of this season, so I think he is worth looking at. Kemba had 15, 8, and 13 with 4 steals. 18% from the field's a disaster, but those other numbers are still pretty good. While Bill Hernan-Gomez getting the bulk of those center minutes over Bismack Biyombo, 13 and 10 with 4 assists. If he gets 24 a night, Billy could be that 14-team league guy that we had hoped from him, but there's still the concern that if Zeller does return, where that all pans out. Dwayne Bacon, the Baconator, had 20 points. He didn't do anything else. He's a volume shooter, not necessarily a volume scorer, but that's what he is as a player. Leaves him more as a 14 or probably even 16-team league guy. For the Raptors, Marc Gasol had 17 points, 6 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. Fantastic. 7 of 9 shooting. Not going to happen. 23 minutes, that's the troubling number. Hard to drop after this performance, no doubt. And he's going to have the bulk of the minutes, but does the bulk mean 25? Does it mean 30? It's probably going to be 25, and that makes him perhaps, even in a 10-team format, maybe someone to move on from. Pascal Siakam was excellent, 23, 7, and 5, while Kyle Lowry returned, only played 28 minutes, but interestingly, Freddie VanVleet, 31. Jeremy Lin, basically out of the rotation, only the 6 minutes. So I think VanVleet's minutes are going to push up pretty high to round out this season, making him a 12-team player that is a solid stream and maybe a hold, depending on how your roster looks. Dan Green, a steal and 2 blocks. That's what he does. Only 2 points offensively. Well, not much else happening for this Raptors team, but it was good to have Kyle Lowry back in action. Another blowout. The Rockets beat the Pelicans 113-90. Jimmy Harden had, I think, 22 points in the first half and ended with 28. 6 triples, 4 assists, a steal, and a block, while Chris Paul had 10, 3, and 13 and 5 steals. Danny House, 14 points, 4 triples, and 6 rebounds. He got those extra minutes because Eric Gordon turned his ankle early in the game, did return, and the fact that Harden and Paul were both kept under 30 minutes. So House got those extra minutes. He is not a 12-teamer. He's probably not a 14-team league guy either. Ken Fareed took advantage of the rests from those star players, 11 and 11 with 2 blocks, while Capella only played 24 minutes. Had 17 rebounds, but only played 24 minutes. This box score in general for the Rockets is not something we can look at and expect to happen. This should give you an idea of how much of a blowout it was. Someone called Chris Chiozza played 5 minutes, and I don't blame you if you've never heard of him. On to the Pelicans, another indicator that this was a blowout. Stan Johnson played 23 minutes. He had 13 and 5. He has these random good shooting nights occasionally, then does nothing else, and that's where we are with him. Frankie Jackson, 19, 3, and 6. I don't think Drew Holiday is returning this season, so Jackson, especially in points leagues, has long-term value. Well, Check Diallo, Alvin Gentry, we're going to play Check more minutes. We're going to really give him more minutes. 9 minutes for Check Diallo in this one, despite just 1 foul. Sure. The 6 minutes for Solomon Hill, why are we bothering with this? 12 minutes for Darius Bertans, why are we bothering? If you want to give more minutes to Check Diallo, give him more minutes. I don't get it. He's better than Jill Okafor, in my opinion, who played 12 minutes here, 2 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Neither of these guys are close to 12 or 14 team league players. Julius Randle's minutes way down. The blowout impact of that. Same with Lord Alfred Payton. Same with Kenrick Williams. You're still holding Randle and Payton in 12-team leagues. I think that should be pretty self-evident. Next up, the Spurs, they blew out the Celtics 115-96. There was a ton of blowouts on Sunday. LaMarcus Aldridge was unbelievable. 48, 13, and 6. No defensive numbers. Elite percentages. Really, really good game from him. And DeRozan had 16 points. No rebounds, but 11 assists and 2 blocks. One of the weirdest DeRozan lines you'll see. It was a shit night from Derek White. 4, 4, and 5. I still believe in him. I would still hold, but I understand if you want to move on from him to get maximal value from streaming that spot, I don't think that you're wrong to do that. Rudy Gay moved to the bench so Jakob Poeltl could start. 7 and 9 for Gay, who'd been playing really well. Poeltl had 6 and 10 with 2 blocks. He's a real specialist here, Poeltl. Gay is a fringe 12-team guy. Poeltl's a guy that, hey, I just need big man numbers. I stream him in, but no, his minutes are not consistent. They are not guaranteed at all. For the Celtics, Irving played 34 minutes. 11, 2, and 12, 2 steals and a block. Terrible shooting from Kyrie. That's a terrible loss from Boston at home. The whispers around are that Kyrie will sit out on Tuesday against Cleveland, so just be aware of that. That could give you some really interesting Terry Rozier stream value, but of course Tuesday is a decently high volume day in the NBA, so that might mean you don't actually get to use him. Gordon Hayward started in place of Jason Tatum, 13 and 10, terrible shooting. Jaylen Brown, 7 points on 8 shots, terrible shooting. Marcus Smart, shot better than both those guys, 14 points with 4 rebounds, but his value's in assists and steal, and he had 1 assist and 0 steals. So just a bad night all round. Al Horford was out. Aaron Baines had 9 and 8 in his 21 minutes, while Daniel Vanilla Tice had 11 and 7 in 19 minutes. No word on if Horford's going to be right for Tuesday. I think they might sit him out again on Tuesday, giving Baines some 14-team stream value and Tice in that zone. as well. While Jalen is more just a 14-team streamer, and I think Hayward's in that similar boat. Marcus Morris, 13 and 6. He's just he's such a back-end guy, more of a 14-team back-end guy than a 12-teamer. Next game up it was looking like a blowout, but then the Pistons made a bit of a late run. 121, the Warriors beat the Pistons 114. Luke the Duck Kennard, 20 points in 28 minutes, 2 steals and 3 threes. I like Kennard a lot. I am concerned that he doesn't play 30-31 a night and he goes down to 24 minutes so that Langston Galloway can get in there. But Kennard is an interesting points streamer without being a must-roster guy. Griffin had 24, 6 and 8. Drummond had 12 and 11. And Thon McCare, a strong night from him, 12 points in his 19, but just a deeper league player. The Duke, Wayne Ellington, he had those 2 massive games in a row and then been an absolute disaster for 2 straight games. He is just a 3 streamer, far from a must-roster 12-team league guy, but you guys all know that. Well, I think Reggie Jackson's a drop. 21 minutes only, 7 points, 9 shots. I think in his last 6 games, he's played 24 minutes or under in 5 of those games. Really tough to consider him a must-hold. Well, Ish Smith had 14 and 4. He is a strong assists streamer, Smith, but not must-roster guys. For the Warriors, their 5-game week is over. Amazingly, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant all played all 5 games. I could not believe that happened. 14, 5, and 11 for Durant. Curry returned from his 1-game rest, 26 and 9 with 5 threes, while DeMarcus Cousins is going to sit out one half of the 2 remaining back-to-backs this season. He set out this game here. We had Andrew Bogut start, played 24 minutes, 8, 5, and 3 with 3 blocks, so he could become even a 14-team streamer on those 2 remaining games that Boogie is going to sit. Klay had 24, Draymond had 15, 5, and 8, while Quinn Cook went back to the bench with Curry back in the lineup to no one's surprise. The last game of the day was the Kings losing to the Lakers. Their season is, both these guys' seasons are done in terms of playoffs. The Western Conference is pretty much set. 111, apart from seeding, 111 Lakers, 106 Kings. Bogdan Bogdanovic, it's been a long time between drinks for a good game from him, but 30 minutes here, they closed the game with Bogdanovic over Cauley Stein. 30 minutes, 17, 2 and 4, a steal and a block with 3 threes. I'd like him in 14-teamer. I don't think I can trust him in 12 teams. Well, Willie Cauley Stein, I needed a second block from Cauley Stein. Now, I'm not even sure if I'm going to get in one of my leagues, my biggest money league. I'm in the semi-final, and we were tied 4-4-1, and the one category that was tied was blocks. I had Cauley Stein going and no one else, and then he didn't return at all in that final quarter. But at least he did give me the 1 block, which is a bit of a surprise from Cauley Stein. He is a drop in 12-team formats. I'm pretty confident. Bagley's a must roster. 25 and 11, 2 threes, a steal and a block. He is coming on with massive numbers at the moment. The free throws weren't good, but massive numbers otherwise. Well, Nemanja Bjelica, more that 16-team league guy who's getting enough playing time, but not huge amounts here with, again, Bogdanovic getting the minutes over both Bjelica and Cauley Stein. I think the minutes restriction from Bagley is done. 36 minutes he played here. The pencil, Harrison Barnes. 10 points with 4 assists. This is the 4 assists are pretty huge for Barnes actually, but otherwise a pretty disappointing night. In a 10-team league, I would not be rostering him in all situations. While Buddy Hield tried to go head-to-head with De'Aaron Fox to see who could be the worst shooter. He has 6 of 21 for 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 threes, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. For the Lakers, JaVale McGee, a must-roster player, 17 and 14 with a steal and 5 blocks and a perfect 8 of 8 from the line. I don't know why his minutes have fluctuated so much. The future MVP dropped 21 points in a quarter, ended with 29 points. Kyle Kuzma, 5 triples, 6 rebounds. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 16, 7 and 4 with 4 threes. With the injury to Josh the Hitman Hart, I don't think he plays much this season. Reggie Bullock with his foot, not sure how much he's going to play the rest of the year. KCP is a worthy add, especially with a 4-game week. Rondo, 37 minutes, 3 points, but 5 rebounds and 9 assists. If you want him for rebounds and assists, he's probably still going to do that. While Lance Stevenson returned, took Alex Caruso's minutes, which is something that should never happen. 8 and 7 in 25 minutes for Stevenson, while Caruso played 18. They are just 14 or 16 team league guys. While flaming Mo Wagner. 5 minutes for Mo Wagner and a disappointing just 1 rebound. But I brought his name up because I think if LeBron does sit 1 game this week and they do have a back-to-back, Wagner could be an interesting stream option on that Wednesday, although almost definitely Walton will go to the useless Mike Muscala and put him in that position. All right, let's go through to the weekly preview for the guys on audio and you guys on video. We're going to swing straight into the DFS segment. All right, let's look at the perfect lineups here. on DFS. For DraftKings, Frank Jackson, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, LeBron James, LaMarcus Aldridge, Ken Fareed, Chris Paul, Marvin Bagley, and JaVale McGee for a total of 378.75, and that cost 49,800. And on FanDuel, Moutier, Devontae Graham, Lou Williams, Aaron Holiday, Bojan Bogdanovic, LeBron James, Kevin Love, LaMarcus Aldridge, and DeAndre Jordan for a total of 405.8, and that cost $59,600 dues. Alright guys, let's talk some DFS now. For Monday, we're going to be focusing mainly on FanDuel pricing, a very, very light Monday in the NBA with only 4 games on. The first one of those is the Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Orlando Magic. The Sixers are 2.5 point favorites. The total 220. The Magic need this victory to keep themselves in the playoff discussion. For the Sixers, James Ennis is questionable with a quad contusion. I imagine if he is out, you see a few extra minutes to TJ McConnell, and John Simmons comes into the rotation as well. At point guard, you got DJ Augustin at 5,800. His minutes, his production have really ramped up of late, averaging 34 over the last 5. I really like DJ here on FanDuel. I think there's a strong amount of value in him with how he's been playing. Carter Williams as the backup, probably not, while Benny Simmons all the way up at 9,900. And we love what Simmons has been doing. I just think that's probably on the high side for him. Shooting guards, you got General Soreness, Jimmy Butler, all the way up at 8,800. I don't feel super confident in that as a tournament play. As a cash play, more of a tournament option, I believe. Terry Ross at 5,900. You're going to get strong games from Ross. You're going to get real stinkers. There's really no in-between for what Ross does. And at 5,900, I think that's on the high side. Fournier, similarly at 6,000. Both those guys are probably priced out of it. Johnny Isaacs at 59 as well. I really don't think the floor or the upside would signify that that is a strong play. Well, Tobias Harris. Actually, we'll go to Tobias in a second. Because JJ Redick comes in at 6,300 again. These prices are very, very high. Now, Redick has averaged 36 the last 3 times against Orlando. He's had a 50-point game in his last 5 outings in general, but he is quite up and down and is more of a tournament player. In fact, this whole slate feels more tournamenty on FanDuel than it does for cash. At power forward, I do like Aaron Gordon at 7,700. He was terrible last time out, just 13 points for the Magic. But prior to that, he'd been a mid-30s guy, and I think that's a relatively decent cash floor play. Prison Mike, not really happening, while Toby Harris, 7,500. I actually prefer Toby over Jimmy Butler because it's a $7,500 price point versus 8,800. And Harris did struggle last game on some poor shooting, but still put up 28 points. And when you're shooting poorly and putting up decent points, I think that I have some value in him at that 7,500 mark. At center, Nikola Vucevic, $10,000, does well against his former team, does well almost in every single game he's played this season. I love the floor. I think there's upside for him as well. He's a strong play in both formats. While Joel Embiid is up to 11,900, and that's because he's been playing obviously at an extreme level. It is a good matchup. Centers against Vucevic and the Magic have put up pretty good numbers for most of this season. I think that it's edging on the high side, but it's not a complete write-off. Boban is a complete write-off. Over on DraftKings, things are a lot looser in the pricing. Love Vucevic, Gordon, Simmons at 84 is a stronger option there. DJ at 56, he's probably a worse DraftKings option than he is on FanDuel. Embiid, of course, at 10.4 comes in pretty strong, as does General Soreness at 7,400, and the 5,600 for Redick is a lot more palatable over on DraftKings. Next game that we look at, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder traveling to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. The Thunder are 5.5 point favorites. The total 219.5. Tyler Dorsey's played big minutes. 1 good game, 1 absolute stinker. We know Avery Bradley's out. Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr.'s out. Kyle Anderson's out. Dylan Brooks is out. And Joakim Noah is doubtful for this one with a right knee issue. That's going to give some extra minutes to Ivan Rabb. Mike Conley should be ready to play as well. At point guard, Russell Westbrook's at $12,000. I actually think that that's probably one of the ones you want to spend up for on Monday. He's been giving us mid to high 50s or 60 most games, so I like him here. While Conley's all the way up at 9,200. I think that's just too high for Conley. The Thunder are a decent matchup for point guards, but I don't feel great investing that much in Mike. For the shooting guards, there is some value here. Dorsey's at 4,300. Now, he was poor last game, just the 18 points, but he had a 47-pointer the game before that. I think he did start over Delon Wright, which I think is a terrible move, and I if Bickerstaff was a decent coach, he'd probably make that switch away from him. But I think that we still have to look at him as a pretty strong option. While D-Line at 57, despite coming off the bench, still dropped 30 in 27 minutes. Now, his $5,700 salary is obviously less appealing than the $4,300 for Dorsey, but I feel stronger about his floor value. Dennis Schroeder at 5,800. Also, he's getting a lot of minutes at the moment. I think he is pretty good for cash with tournament upside. For your small forwards, Paul George is at 10,400. I think there's a lot of value in Paul George there. A strong cash option, a strong tournament option. Chandler Parsons was terrible last time out. At 4,500, he does have tournament value. I'd be much more happy using him than, say, Abdul Nadir or Bruno Caboclo, who are obviously solidly in the rotation. Ivan Rabb at 3,700 with Noah potentially out. Rabb could come in and put up a 20-pointer, 25 points perhaps. He is still more of a GPP guy than anything. Jeremy Grant at 56, that's strong for cash with, I think, limited upside for tournaments, but good for cash, while Markieff Morris is not working. And at centre, Steve Adams all the way down at 6,000. A good matchup for him against Jonas Valanciunas and those Grizzlies. I think he's a pretty good cash option, while Valanciunas all the way up at 8,100. And that's because he's killing it. Averaging 53 over the last three. He had 46 in just 26 minutes in his last game. I think he is worth looking at that 8,100 if you don't want to spend up for someone like Joel Embiid at the centre position. Over on DraftKings, we're looking at Dorsey, Adams, Valanciunas, Conley at 75. That is a fantastic price. Paul George, Westbrook, D-Line. A ton of value in this game. Even Schroeder at 5,300, Rabb at 38. There's a lot of DraftKings value in this matchup for this slate. Next game we look at is the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. By far the largest spread of the day. A 15-point spread headed towards Utah's side. The total 217.5. Now, I don't think Utah's going to cover this necessarily. We know that Tyler Johnson and TJ Warren are out for Phoenix. Joshy Jackson is listed as questionable. The Jazz have had some trouble against some of the poorer teams of late. They should still beat the Suns, but I'm not sure the 15 points is what we're looking at here. A lot of this value is going to be determined by Josh Jackson's availability. If he is out, then DeAnthony Melton at 3,600 should see some extra ball handling opportunities, some extra minutes, and he would be an interesting tournament guy. Ravishing Rick Rubio's at 6,500. I think that salary rise from him over the last couple of games puts him out of consideration. Ali Akobo, Hull Neto, probably not, or definitely not. At shooting guard, the Donovan Mitchell.
He's good.
He's at $9,000, hasn't quite been at that same level. I'd much prefer him playing as the point guard rather than playing off ball. It does limit his value. I think that this is probably a little bit too high for Don. I'd much rather spend the $9,300 on Devin Booker, who has a chance to start at point guard, but handles that point guard role almost all of the time regardless. When with Tyler Johnson out, it's going to fall on his shoulders. So I like Booker at $9,300 quite a bit. You got Troy Daniels, Kyle Korver, Jimmy Fredette. I don't really think any of those guys are in your discussions. For small forwards, Jingle and Joe's at 61. Love the cash value, limited tournament upside. While McCall Bridges is getting a lot of minutes. And if Josh Jackson's out, I think 5,100 for McCall becomes a cash play with tournament upside as well. While Jay Crowder at 54. I don't really feel too excited about that. Derek Favors is at 6,800. Now, it's a very, very strong matchup for Favors. He does well against Phoenix. You worry about the limited minutes that he could get. And 6,800 is a fair whack to have to pay for it, but it's not a bad matchup for him. Joshy Jackson's at 53. If he plays, I think you've got to look at him as a tournament guy because we just wouldn't be sure of how many minutes he would actually play. While Rashawn Holmes at 4,400, he's played over 20 minutes in each of the last two games, limiting Ayton's minutes. I think you look at him as a tournament guy, but even then, not a very high upside player. At centre, Ayton's at 7,900. With how things have been rolling for him at the moment, I think I would fade him. Gobert at 94. Love this matchup for Rudy. He should be looking to at least get close to 50 points. So I think that Gobert is worth looking at, but probably more for tournaments than for cash, as this spread could make things really get out of hand. On DraftKings, you have value in a lot more spots. Gobert and Favors, irrespective of the blowout nature, those prices are strong. Ayton I like more. Mitchell and Booker also come in pretty good. And the 5,400 for Rubio, I think, is a significantly fairer price. The last game of the day, we're looking at the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers are 6-point favorites here, and the total is 225.5. Seth Curry has been on fire for the Blazers, really taking advantage of CJ McCollum's absence. At point guard, you got Spencer Dinwiddie at 5,600 on FanDuel. That's a really fair price for Dinwiddie. He had been struggling up until last game. I think that is it absolutely puts him in play here in this one. Lillard at 10,600 is putting up strong numbers. I like Lillard quite a bit on this one. While Seth at 4,100, he's exceeded 20 each of the last 3 or 4 games. Upside for tournaments and strong cash floor, I believe. At shooting guard, Karis LeVert's a really strong fade, while D'Angelo Russell at 9,100. Man, he is just carrying this team at the moment, and you have to feel good about his cash value. Small forward DeMarre Carroll started last game over LeVert, and with the blue swimmer Alan Crabb also out here, I think you look at him as a pretty strong floor cash guy, DeMarre Carroll. Smoking Joe Harris at 46, more for tournaments. Flaming Mo Harkless similarly at 52, and Jake Layman, I don't care that he starts, and I don't care that Rodney Hood has a potential to get more minutes. I don't feel comfortable with either of them. At power forward, the Chief, Al-Farouq Aminu.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
He's at 4,900. He had a massive game last time. That means a shit one's probably coming, but he's always a tournament option at least. While Rowdy Rodion's Kulricks, I don't really see much there for him. At center, love Nurkic, 8,400. Even Enes Kanter at 47. He has historically annihilated the Nets. The problem is there's just probably not going to be enough minutes here for Kanter, but I do love Nurkic at that 8,400. Jarrett Allen's at 62. Don't mind it for cash. I'm not sure the upside's really there for him though. On DraftKings, Nurkic, love it, 6,900.
Giggity!
That is one of the best plays of the day. And Kanter at 4,000. I think he can just get cash value at that salary pretty comfortably. Lillard I like, DeMarre Carroll I like. D'Angelo at 86 also has pretty strong value on this one. Let's look at some studs and values now on DraftKings. Paul George as a stud guy I like. A value play of Yusuf Nurkic. On FanDuel, we're looking at a stud of Vucevic and a value play of Steve Adams. On Yahoo, my stud is Paul George and my value play is DeMarre Carroll. And on DraftStars, the stud is Vucevic and the value play is Tyler Dorsey. That'll wrap it up for another show. Make sure you guys are subscribing to this podcast and do that by downloading the new Himalaya app and finding the podcast there. You can also do it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, and on Spotify. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_Beeble, and on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, click the bell so you never miss an episode. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Troy Brown.